Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Donovan Live postgame show. I'm Dave DiNatale along with Jim Donovan here on WKYC's Facebook Live. A busy Wednesday of sports going on as the Indians are in action here in downtown Cleveland.
And ahead, 4-0, and that should be enough.
Yes, I mean, pretty much you can book it. I think pretty much.
Last night the Indians had 4 hits in the game against the Tigers and won.
Yeah,
and their pitching is just everything that we expected, and probably even a little bit more. So Carlos Carrasco, unless something happens, should go to 3-0. Right?
He's only thrown in 5 innings of work. Right now, it's in the bottom of the 5th, that 4-0 score. Carlos Carrasco has thrown 53 pitches in 5 innings. He's only allowed 2 hits. He has struck out 4. So extremely economical, and Detroit will be hard pressed to come back and get with the Tribe.
Let me just say this, Dino. Detroit's in for a long
season. Yes, they are.
Ron Gardenhire is back in the dugout after managing the Twins and doing such a great job there, and then being out of it for a little bit. But now he's back. He gets the Tiger job. But it will be like when he began with the Twins. Now, he built them back up.
But it's going to take a while.
It's going to take a while. I mean, these are not the Tigers of a few years ago that would dominate the Central Division. And I have to tell you, I just don't see anybody that will push the Indians in the Central Division. I really don't. I watch, Minnesota's an interesting team, but I think over the long haul of a season, I think the Indians would separate from them.
They have more I think the Indians just have more talent. Yeah. Detroit in the first inning, Jason Kipnis up to bat, hits a ball off of Tiger pitcher Jordan Zimmerman and essentially knocked him out of the game. Now, apparently, he was able to walk off.
He was.
Under
it's
his
a
own
right
power.
jaw contusion right now. They're checking it, but it was
scary.
Very scary. I mean, Kipnis was just very emotional. I mean, when that happens. And it's a scary thing. I mean, it really is. It's pitchers. Some of them now are they go to the protective cap.
Yep.
Some pitchers wear that. I don't know if Zimmerman did. It would not have mattered.
No.
It didn't get up that high. It hit him right in the face.
You almost need now, like we were watching the game last night.
Softball.
Yeah, exactly. The girls, the mask on the side, either a girl softball mask or like some of the batters.
Yeah.
Have the guard that goes down all the way down the side of their chin.
But I was watching like the NCAA women's fast pitch softball, and a lot of those pitchers.
Of course you were.
Yeah, and a lot of the pitchers now wear almost like a version of a catcher's mask out on the mound because, I mean, remember, those are aluminum bats.
Right.
And that ball flies.
Yeah.
And that's a small distance. That's a very short distance.
It is.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on the Indians. They're heading to the 6th. They're up 4-0. We'll get to the Cavs in a second. They're tipping off against the New York Knicks coming up in about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes over at the Q. Now, if you didn't get a chance to see, and we put a link here on Facebook Live, the Browns preseason schedule is out. We know the 4 teams are going to play. All the exact dates haven't been locked in except for one, the national TV game. But, Jimmy, here's the good news. The GLC is back, the Great Lakes Classic against the Detroit Lions. I'm going to ask you about that in a second. But the bad news is the Chicago Bears are gone from the schedule. I feel like that was always a rite of passage to either go to Soldier Field or have them here in the all-important 4th preseason game.
Yeah, I loved going to Chicago when the Browns, it was every other year, they would play the Bears always in the 4th preseason game. And so one year it would be here, but the next year it would be there. Now, last year we were there twice for the last game of the preseason and then Christmas Eve, which was really nice in the Chicago area. But I love going to Chicago.
I love Chicago.
Love going there. And so, surprisingly, boy, and they have played the Bears for many, many years.
Yeah.
I think it's in the teens as far as playing them.
I feel like, for a while it was, maybe you get one NFC North opponent, 1 or 2 NFC North opponents. You get like the Bears and the Packers or the Bears and the Lions, and then they'll sprinkle in an NFC East or maybe an AFC opponent. This year, a little bit different. You get the New York Giants will be the first opponent. Again, we don't have the exact date yet on that one, but that will be at the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium. So pack your bags to the Big Apple, Jimmy. And then home games against the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, that Eagles game, we know the date for that. It's going to be on August 23rd because that will be televised nationally on Fox, so you can make your plans for that. We'll get a look at Carson Wentz for a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that will be the third preseason
rehearsal
game,
game,
and
yeah.
so it's a rehearsal game. You're right. And then they'll end against the Lions.
Against the Lions.
Up in Detroit. I will say this, fascinating game against the Giants, the first preseason game. Really, the first two are very, very interesting because remember now, the Giants are going to pick second.
Yes.
And a lot of people have them taking a quarterback at number 2. We, of course, are at number 1. I don't know if you've heard that. But we are picking first, and we're going to pick a quarterback, okay? So you would think, a pretty good close-up right away
Yes.
of how our young quarterback is going to be, and if they do pick a quarterback at number 2, how their quarterback is going to be. Now, I go back to a couple of years ago when the Browns opened up against Philadelphia in the regular season, and it was RG3 against Carson Wentz. That was his first game, and remember, Philadelphia really shocked everybody by naming him the starting quarterback, but they had traded Sam Bradford to Minnesota, and they didn't want to play Chase Daniels, so they played Carson Wentz. And it didn't go well for the Browns.
No, it
Carson
did not.
Wentz played lights out. RG3 did not play well, and then, in fact, got hurt on the last drive of the game. So it didn't go well in the comparison game that time around. Now, the second preseason game, Tyrod Taylor will go up against his
former
old
team,
his
yeah.
former team,
Yeah.
the Buffalo Bills. So that will be interesting.
Who may have a rookie quarterback of their own by that point.
I think they will. Yeah, I think they will. And who knows what the Bills are going to do because they have 12 and 22 in the first round. And a lot of people think they're trying to maneuver to get up to get a quarterback and to get one of these 4. And who knows if at number 4 would they do any business with the Browns?
Right.
Or would they try
that's been discussed,
yeah, so
certainly.
That's what makes those games interesting. That and only that.
that and listening to Doug Deacon, there's always a third or fourth stringer with an unpronounceable name that Deke has to mention, because he'll make a sack or something in the second half.
Right.
That makes it worthwhile, too.
There was the guy, the tight end, and he went to Illinois where Doug went to school, and that was Michael Ho'omanawanui.
That's right.
And Doug didn't think he was going to be a big part of the game. Well, lo and behold, whoever he was with at that time, and I think it was the Rams he was with, they decided they were going to work on passes to the tight end. So Ho'omanawanui was making a lot of plays, and Doug just gave up and called him Big Mike.
Oh God, I love that's phenomenal. Now that game, the game that really means the fourth preseason game. Although I would argue for the Browns, it means something because there will be young players who are going to need playing time, especially that the quarterback. You would think
that'll be it.
Yeah, that'll be it. It's against the Lions. Now, I always remember in my days of doing sports talk radio. The whole thing with the Browns and the Lions, they called it the Great Lakes Classic. Former team president Carmen Policy had the barge, the big trophy, which I got to hold the barge. I got to take a picture with the barge.
So they say, besides the Stanley Cup, that was the most beautiful trophy ever made.
That's right. and I mean, there was a song made about this, a parody song called "The GLC Never Has a Game That Meant So Much." Meant so little. I always appreciated that Carmen tried to, in the new era, stimulate excitement.
Yeah. He did. Yeah, he did.
He
really
tried.
Did. I think there was a charity cash benefit in the game at one time, which was good. I mean, that was really terrific. But it truly, in the preseason, it's very difficult to drum up an intense rivalry when, typically, and that would be this one would be the last one. Most of the guys are wearing baseball caps.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not playing.
Right.
I mean, that's the way it is. You don't want to play them in the fourth preseason game if you want them ready for the regular season. So, but you're right. That was Carmen really went to task on that, and he tried to drum that up a great deal. Then that trophy, everyone was kind of wondering at one point, where is the trophy? Where is the trophy? I'm thinking it might be in their lobby now. There is a trophy
I believe it is.
Yeah.
I believe it. But there was a time, and I actually, guys I worked with at ESPN Cleveland, we thought that one of them that had gone in and no names please, stole the barge and had the barge at his place for a couple of weeks. And whether he did or not, the barge returned the next day when people were like, okay, we got to find this thing. Now, one other thought with the preseason, I saw because I was worried about this. No, I really wasn't. Jim Donovan and Doug Deacon will begin year 20 as the voice. Now, of course, Deacon's what, 30.
Well, Doug,
30,
yeah,
because he was Nev and Casey, of course.
Well, Doug went right into the booth
Yeah.
after his retirement, which was my first year here, so that would have been '85.
Yeah.
Doug went into the booth because he retired. That was one of the first stories
Yeah.
I covered, his announcement that he was retiring. He went into the booth, and remember that this was a very unique situation that they did that year on the Browns radio network, and that was that Jim Mueller and Nev Chandler alternated
the play-by-play.
quarters.
That's right.
Now, the first regular season game was against
The Cardinals,
the
I
Cardinals
believe,
here.
over at the stadium.
Ozzie
yeah.
Newsome made a
Yeah.
great catch in the
mud. Yeah, I remember that.
But it went to overtime. So Jim Mueller did the first, and Jim was working at Channel
Yeah.
3 at the time. Jim Mueller did the first quarter. Nev did the second quarter. Jim did the third quarter. Nev did the fourth quarter. But the game went into overtime, and Doug tells the story that the two guys were up in the booth saying, well, what do we do now?
Yeah, well, yeah. You want to flip a coin?
yeah. That was kind of a strange. I don't think
it was interesting. And then it ended up the following year. It was just Nev and Doug. Jim was kind of the third color. Yeah,
pregame host.
But I think that for Deke, this will be year 30. So if you do the math, I think that's 10 or 11 seasons from 85 to 95. I think that's 11 seasons. So this is season 31, I think, for Deke. But
how about that?
But 20 years for the two of you together. I think that's I can't be more thankful.
I have to tell you,
it's amazing to have just to have an institution of the two of you together again.
It is such a great relationship.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, I have never had a bad day with Doug Deacon.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
We just have a great time together. Yeah. And, it's like two guys just talking during the game, sitting side by side doing the game. And he is he wears his feelings out on his sleeves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he desperately wants this team to do well, and he wants to be a part of it when they are doing well. And he's just, he's a part of their history. He's a part of their history that they should always make sure that they keep part of their history.
Yes.
Because at times they've been a little slack, not with him, but with others.
With others, yeah.
And they should make sure that they keep that intact.
And I don't. I mean, I know Kevin Mack has been working in that office now, and
he's the alumni relations guy.
That's one. I mean, if there are a lot of things you can be critical about with the Browns, and people say, "Duh, they haven't won games," but that's a very fixable thing to make sure that the guys. I mean, we've talked about it on this show. I mean, that's what Browns fans have as much as anything else to lean on is the past, the heroes of the past, and you don't overlook them. You've got to make sure you keep them in the family.
Now, a very interesting move, and I think it's going to be entertaining for the fans over on television.
That's why I'm looking forward to this. Yeah.
Tim Couch is going to come in, along with the ESPN's, former ESPN anchor, and that is Jay Crawford's going to do the play-by-play, and he's a big Browns fan and has been lifetime. But Tim Couch, who's done some really good work down in the SEC
network,
country and on the SEC network, and he's going to do the
I'm excited
analysis.
about this.
Well,
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and again, the quarterback position here is going to be under the microscope. But I think you're going to enjoy Tim because he's not just, this isn't going to be a first-time thing for him.
No.
And I'm very happy the Browns did that. And I know Tim had expressed an interest a couple of years ago, and the Browns went a different direction. And I don't know if Tim actually made it, noticeable to the point that maybe the Browns would have paid more attention to it. But it was when Solomon Wilcots came in after Bernie had done the game. So I'm good. I'd be very interested. Good for Tim. Good for the Browns for doing it.
And nothing against Mike Patrick and Solomon Wilcots. I mean, Mike Patrick, grew up watching him do play-by-play on ESPN and also the ACC basketball and everything he's done. Terrific announcer, and I like Solomon on CBS, but I really have always believed in the preseason. You've got to have people that really are embedded either close to the team or really have a Browns pedigree. I mean, to get an alum like Tim Couch, I think it's a nice tip of the cap to things that he did earlier, in this Browns new regime as the quarterback. Best quarterback. I mean, statistically and everything. I mean, he's the last quarterback to take the Browns to the playoffs. I mean, and then Jay Crawford, as you said, a guy that is going to be getting an opportunity to do some play-by-play. This will be a first really big TV gig he's had since being a part of that ESPN buyout and everything. So I'm excited for him. Jay's a friend. I'm excited for him.
Yeah, Tim Couch, I want to just tell you a story. Bruce Arians always felt that if the Browns had done what the Browns really should have done and not play Tim Couch right away, specifically in 1999 when he was a rookie and the Browns were a true expansion team, that he would have been a really good quarterback. But he got, if you remember, I mean, right from his second snap, I mean, he just got buried that rookie year and he got hurt and then, you know, led to more hurt. But there were points where Tim Couch played very, very well. That year they made the playoffs under Butch Davis. Couch started the year hurt, if you remember, so Kelly Holcomb went in and started and really played pretty well. Couch went in and he pulled them in. He pulled them through a game with an amazing comeback down in Tennessee. That they won in overtime.
That
Remember,
was a great game. That was great. That was a great game.
He and Dennis Northcutt, Phil Dawson kicked the winning field goal, and they won the game. And Couch would have played in the playoffs, but he broke his leg in the last game against Atlanta.
The Falcons,
in the early part of the first half. And then Holcomb came in and got them the win that day, and they made the playoffs, and Holcomb had a great game in Pittsburgh. But Bruce Arians has always felt Tim Couch got robbed of some really probably successful times with the Browns if the Browns had not pushed him in like they did.
Yeah. Real quick, before we get to the Cavs, Mel Kiper Jr. put this out. We went off. We did the show last night. If you read my recap at WKYC.com, we finished the show last night. Mel Kiper Jr. did the same thing that Todd McShay did for ESPN. He put out his 3-round mock, and Todd wanted to bring it up. He goes, I noticed today that now mock drafts are switching to Josh Allen being picked at 1, and then Darnold going to 2, and then Barkley going 4. What do you make of Allen being, Kiper's pick?
Well, he's been his pick all year. Okay?
All offseason.
He has been his pick all year. And I think it's more that he has always felt he's been the best quarterback. I think that's Mel's stance on this. And I don't want to put words in Mel's mouth, but I mean, I think really early on, once he started deciphering things, I think he was always, Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the draft with the most upside, so he has put him to the #1 spot, and with the Browns needing a quarterback, there you have it. I don't think that, but I don't think that's what they're going to do.
I don't either, but
he's visiting tomorrow here in Cleveland. But Mel has been very, very consistent with that Josh Allen has been or should be the #1 pick in the draft. And again, the Barkley thing, you know where I am on that. I don't see that happening. I think they are going to take a running back. I don't think they're going to take him at 4. And he's not going to be around, when they pick again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't at 4. I mean, right now in your mind, if they stay at 4 and don't trade and don't trade out of it, I mean, it kind of feels like it's down maybe to 3 players, doesn't it? Either Fitzpatrick from Alabama, Ward from Ohio State, or Chubb from North Carolina State.
And I think Chubb would be on the top of the list.
Top of the 3. But I kind of feel like it's going to be if they stay at 4.
I
feel like it's going to be defense.
Yeah, I do too. And the swing pick will be that #2 pick by the Giants.
Right.
And, of course, what they do at 1. But, I mean, the swing pick will be what they do. Now, out of New York, they're saying that if the Browns take Sam Darnold, then the Giants will not take a quarterback at #2, that they will take either Barkley or Chubb. And now, remember, they traded away Jason Pierre-Paul, who's a great pass rusher, traded him to Tampa, right? So, do they go get Chubb?
Do they go get Chubb
to put him in place of JPP? Yeah, I think that, but I would agree. I would say if Bradley Chubb is there at 4, I think they would take him.
I think they'll, I do too.
And I thought Hugh kind of opened the window on that a little bit last week when someone had asked him, do you ever envision that? And he said, envision that? I sleep at night and dream of that.
Exactly.
With Myles Garrett and Chubb and, Ogba and all those young defensive linemen.
A couple of just quick Browns dates here now. We'll hear a week from tomorrow. We will hear from John Dorsey. That's when he's going to have his pre-draft meeting with the media, and then of course the draft is 2 weeks from tomorrow. I would think the schedule. We got the preseason dates today. The NFL usually announces about a week or so in advance when they're going to put out the schedule. I would think that we might find out their schedule next week.
You think so?
I think at the latest.
Normally when the owners' meetings?
It's right before the draft usually.
Okay.
I feel like it is.
It's always exciting.
Yes.
Because then everybody plays.
Play the schedule game.
Play the schedule game.
I love the schedule.
All right. We open up.
We could go 11-5. I mean, there's nothing like the schedule game. And kind of wrapping up the show, speaking of schedules as we speak, Cavs are about to tip off against the Knicks to round out the regular season. Kevin Love amongst those who's not going to play tonight. LeBron is going to play.
Until he gets to 10 points.
Yes.
And then they're going to get him out,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Because, I think the Cavs decided, look, we don't care who we play this week. We can go to Milwaukee, we can go to Indiana, or they can come here. We don't care. 3 seed, 4 seed, we don't care.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think the Cavs are pretty dialed in on what's going to happen. I was very interested that they're bringing back Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah. What was your takeaway?
Well, I remember Kendrick Perkins when he won a title with the Celtics, and I think the Celtics would have won another one. But do you remember he got hurt? He hurt his knee in Game 6 out at Staples Center.
That's right.
Against the Lakers, and the Celtics, they lost their big man. But
right.
They were up in that series 3-2.
Right.
And he got hurt early in Game 6. They got blown out of Game 6, and they led in Game 7 without him, but he couldn't play. And then they traded him the next year.
And he was heartbroken. He was and I don't know if that big three was ever the same. I think that really affected that team's chemistry.
I agree with you, and he was devastated. I remember the Celtics had a documentary that they did that year that followed them throughout the year, and at the trading deadline when they made that trade, Jeff Green was involved in that deal.
Absolutely.
When they made that trade, I remember them going to his hotel room. They were on the road, and they went in, and Doc Rivers and Danny Ainge told him that he had been traded, and he was despondent.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you a story. I was listening to the Celtics one night when they were on a good run that year.
Our guy, Sean Grandy.
And they were out west, and Bill Walton was a guest analyst on the game. It was on radio. And the Celtics won the game, and I believe they had beaten the Clippers or the Kings. And they brought Kendrick Perkins over for a post-game interview on the radio, and Bill Walton said to him, I want to tell you something. You are a great Celtic. And Kendrick Perkins says, that's one of the greatest compliments anyone's ever paid me.
Yeah.
So he was really into playing for them.
Well, and I didn't understand until I watched the 30 for 30 last year, the Lakers Celtics 30 for 30, how much it meant to Bill Walton to have his career resurrected by the Celtics. And he really, he was only there for like 3 seasons, but it was such a big part of that 86 championship team. And
came off the bench.
And was like, I think he was 6th man of the year.
You know what he used to do? He really got into the city of Boston, and the history of the Celtics, which was great. The Celtics were unbelievable, and that was he was really into that. Of course, remember, he was a UCLA legend, right? And now here he is coming to this legendary franchise, the Celtics. But he used to hang out in Harvard Square all the time, drink coffee, play chess, things like that. He really got into being a Celtic, and for the whole year, because he knew he was at the end of his career, wanted to win a title. And now, there's a story that the Celtics used to scrimmage, and they would have a green team, white team.
Yeah.
He was on the green team because they were the backups. They were the reserves coming off. Kevin McHale always tells the story that the scrimmages used to get very, very heated. And Walton had a bit of a stutter.
Yeah.
And he said he would break everybody up when Walton would come in at the start of the game and go green. And they loved having him.
Yeah.
He was a great guy on the Celtics that time. And he'll be remembered for Portland.
He'll be remembered for Portland, but
he was a Celtic.
And I can understand why Kendrick Perkins, when Bill Walton says that to you're a great Celtic. It's like, wow.
And I was listening to it, and Perkins was like just floored by it. Yeah.
Now, when we first heard that this was going to happen, that the Cavs are going to bring Perkins back, there were people who were messaging me here on Facebook, because I did a Facebook Live about it, and they're like, well, he's going to, he shouldn't be out there playing. Well, he's not here to play other than to maybe do what he did to Jay Crowder a few years ago and be an enforcer. His job really, I think, is to back up LeBron James' message and the leadership to the guys who are on the bench getting their first taste of the postseason and being that guy to lean on.
Because James Jones was that guy.
Yeah, he's
Mike Miller was that kind of guy.
He's an honorary ring bearer.
Yeah.
I mean, James Jones, Sean Marion.
Right.
Mike Miller.
Yeah, those guys.
All those guys.
Right, exactly.
Jefferson.
Right.
Richard Jefferson.
Richard Jefferson. Yeah.
I mean, that's it's just to have that guy. If Larry Nance Jr. has a tough game,
and that could happen.
And that could happen in the course of a playoff game. He has a tough game. He gets beaten up by whoever the Cavs are going to play. And you've got Perkins there to sit with him and say, no, this is what you need to do.
Right.
Or if a message, if something needs to be reinforced that either Tyronn Lue says or LeBron James says or whatever, Kendrick Perkins is going to reinforce that message. I think it's a no-lose thing. I mean, it's roster spot number 15.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you. And, he can still be a presence.
Yeah.
And sometimes you put him in there to be a presence.
Yeah.
And he is a rim protector.
Right.
And,
you want to stop. Yeah, you want to stop people from, taking the. If you want to come in for, 3 minutes at the end of a quarter to stop the Golden State Warriors. I hope we're having that conversation in June from driving into the lane, at will. Kendrick Perkins isn't a bad guy to stick out there and to stop people.
Incidentally, what is wrong with the Golden State Warriors? I mean, last year when you and I were talking at this point in time, we would say it every night that I always felt the Cavaliers know where the button is to push the button and the engine goes and they're ready to go. Now, Golden State last night at one point was losing by like 50 points.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
And they ended up losing, by a significant amount. And they were terrible in the last 10 games.
It reminded me of the Cavs in January when they were losing to teams, some that are going to the playoffs, some not, by like 20 and 30 points. And you sit there and you go, what is this?
Now, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson all played last night.
It's not like it was. It looks like it was the B League out there.
That's a strange finish by them.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, and
they must know the button. They
right?
Must be ready to push
exactly.
The button.
I mean, it worked. I mean, I guess it's one thing as I kind of put a bow on this, and the Cavs are ready to start the playoffs after tonight. I feel better, I think, about them now than I did this time a year ago. The way they're playing, and the way they've played this month. I mean, they really, to me, look like, okay, we're ready for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Where last year it was kind of like, hello, alarm clocks, let's go, it's playoff time. I don't feel like that with this team. The way they've played, especially the Torontos, and even the way they came back in Philadelphia. I know they played lousy in the first half and they were down by 30, but the way they came back against Philly, you feel better, I think, about where this team is than maybe you did a year ago, and that was with Kyrie and the Big Three.
Right. They win tonight. They have the same record that they had at the end of the regular season last year with Kyrie.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yep.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Lots to get into tonight. We'll keep an eye, quick check on the Indians here as we sign off. 4-1 Tribe in the bottom of the 7th. We'll have a Facebook Live after the game with wrapping up the Indians and the Cavaliers. Jimmy, of course, will have all your highlights coming up, Channel 3 News at 11, so check us out for that. For the Herv, David Herverton, and for Jim Donovan, I'm Dave DiNatale. Thanks for watching WKYC's Facebook Live. Yeah, we're the Donovan Live postgame show.